نحمده ونصلي ونسلم على رسوله الكريم أما بعد رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to our Kids Hour, where we continue our maktab sessions that we had began before the month of Ramadan. Yesterday, alhamdulillah, we had a session, and today, inshallah, we continue in every single of those areas that we had began. So let's get started first of all, inshallah, with our Qaida sessions. To recap where we had covered yesterday. Yesterday we had looked at some of the continuation of the letters which are commonly confused when they are joined. We mentioned the fact that, as we had been doing before, that letters, when they come in words, are joined in very specific ways, and those ways depend on where the letter is in the word, whether it begins the word, it's in the middle of the word, or it ends the word. And to recap, the general idea that we had mentioned yesterday are the two dot letters, which are, as we see on the screen right now, ta, qaf, and ya. And we mentioned the fact that for students, the very important aspect is remembering that qaf is a loop letter, so it has a very different shape than the other two letters, ta and ya. And the difference between ta and ya is the fact that ta has two dots above the letter, while ya has two dots below. And if we would truly to take our time and check the shape of the letter as well as the dots, and we're never going to, inshallah, make that mistake of confusing any one of these three letters. Today, inshallah, we're moving on to the next couple letters. We have, first of all, the letters dal and dal, right? The two dals. So the letters dal, ra, and waw. Those are the letters that we're looking at today. Essentially, we remember that all of these letters belong to the family of non-joining letters. They don't like to join, so that's why there are no examples where these letters are in the beginning of a word or in the middle of the word. They will only either appear on their own or joined at the end, just like we see here. So in the first example, we have dal at the beginning of the word, or rather on its own. And in the last example, we have dal when it joins essentially at the end of words. And we see in this example here that because it doesn't like to join, there's a little bit of a space in between the dal and the kaf. And that's why we refer to these letters as non-joining letters. Now, why are students commonly confused about these letters? It's particularly these ending forms and the beginning forms, at least for the letter dal and ra. Now, we had mentioned the fact that dal, when we draw this letter, it sits on top of the line, right? Ra looks a little bit similar to the letter dal. However, ra starts in the middle and goes below the line. This confusion while learning the Qaida that some students, when they get to reading Quran, they commonly mix up these two letters. So it's very important for us to look at the letter Dal and remember that the letter Dal has a distinct curve and is written on top of the line, and the letter Ra is written going through the line. Okay, so if we remember that aspect, then we can be able to differentiate between the letters Dal and Ra. And then we have the letter waw. The letter waw is commonly confused for the letter ra. Now, both of these are below the line, right? starts on above and then goes below. Starts above and goes below. Um, the letter Ro and Wow are commonly mixed up by students when they don't take the time to point out the fact that the Wow has its very specific shape at the very top, while Ro doesn't have that same shape. Okay, so it's our care in looking for these very same trends is what's going to help us identify these letters and differentiate them from one another. Okay, but as before, we have the same non-joining principle for all of these letters of the letters Ro, letters Dal, and Wow. Right? So we're seeing all of these letters in the actual words, and all that's left for us to do is to look at actually reciting these examples. Okay, so let's go through the examples now, inshallah. From the first one, so we have reciting after me Dal, Ya, Noon. Okay, next one Dal, Wow, Noon. Very good. Let's look at the examples where Dal's on the end. Ya, Dal, Kaf, Ain, Noon, Dal. Lastly, Ba, Ain, Dal. Okay, so again, I just want to reiterate what we've been saying. In this example here, Ya, Dal, Kaf, this Dal is not joined onto the Kaf. And that's why we call all of these letters non-joining letters, because they can be joined to, all right? They can be joined from another letter, but they cannot join on itself to another letter, right? So if you want to rephrase that, it can be joined from a letter, but can't join to another letter, right? So these are the non-joining letters, all right? Next examples: Ro, Ba, Ain, Ro, Ha, To, Ya, Ro, Dal, Dal, Kaf, Ro, Kaf, Fa, Ro. Okay, good. And lastly, for the letter Wow, have Dal, Wow, Noon. Wow, Lam, Ha. Qaf, Wow, Meme. Seen, Wow, Ho. Lastly, Coin, Wow, Lam. Okay, very good. This example at the very start for the letter Wow showed two of the letters, right? This was the letter Dal that we saw above, and also the letter Wow in the middle. And so because there are two non-joining letters right next to each other, the whole word is just simply all three letters in their separate forms, not joined to one another at all. Okay, good. So that's Dal, Wow, and Ro, three letters that are sometimes commonly confused by students. Um, let's move on now, inshallah, to the next letters. They are the needle eye family, right? We talked about these letters before, and even though we mentioned the fact that these letters all have that very distinct shape, being like the eye of a needle. And we mentioned the fact that the top two, sword and lord, have tails, and the bottom two, Tor and Vor, have antenna. And the only difference between all four of these letters is whether it has a tail or an antenna and a dot, right? Now, even though that seems simple to us right now, it's quite easy to mix up these letters when we're actually reading. We might try to be reading a little bit too quickly, and we miss the dot on the Lord, or we might try to be reading too quickly and we miss the antenna on the Tor. So in those instances, it's very easy for us to mix up these letters in all sorts of ways. What's important for us is that we check the letter, we make sure that we know which one it is, i.e. whether it has an antenna or a tail, and then whether it has a dot or not. And that will be able to tell us which pair it is, and then which of the pair of the letters is actually seen. So let's go on, inshallah, to the examples where we have for the first one is the letter sword. Now, remember that the letter sword is like the actual sword that you might use, to fight with. It's a sword, right? Not as flat as the letter seen. And when we recite this letter, there's a full-mounted or round-mounted nature to the actual letter itself, inshallah. All right. So after me again, we have meme, wow, sword. Sword, fa, ta. Sword, dal, qaf. Noon, sword, fa. And lastly, ya, ain, sword. Very good. Next example, reciting after me again. Ain, ra, dod. Dod, lam, wow, dod, ain. Ya, dod, ra. Ba, ain, dod. Okay, and let's finish up today with these last two rows, inshallah. We have lam, wow, to. To, ba, noon. To, aleph, ba. Ya, to, ain. Ta, to, ain. Okay, last line. Vo, lam, mim. Ha, vo, aleph. Fa, vo, noon. Goin, ya, vo. Lastly, ha, fa, vo. Okay, so the Nilai family, we know it's a family of letters. We know that they are all closely related to one another. What's important for us to remember is the differences between the pairs of the letters and then the dots that separate those two individual pairs. Okay, so that'll bring us to an end for the Qaida session, inshallah. We'll now move on to the Quran reading session. So yesterday we would have looked at this surah, which is Surah Al-Humaza. And before we move on to our new surah for today, Surah Takathur, let's recite this surah fully. As always, when we begin with the ta'awudh and then the tasmiyah or the basmala. Right? So reciting after me. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ويل لكل همزة لمزة الذي جمع مالا وعدده يحسب أن ماله أخلده كلا لينبذن في الحطمة وما أدراك ما الحطمة نار الله الموقدة التي تطلع على الأفئدة إنها عليهم مؤصدة في عمد ممددة. Okay, very good. So that's Surah Al-Takathur, and we would have done half of the surah the day before and half of the surah yesterday as well. If you remember as well, we had done Surah Al-Asr before, Surah Al-Kathir before we stopped our sessions. So today, inshallah, the surah that we move on to is Surah Al-Takathur. So Surah Takathur continues this trend of getting into some of the longer surahs. Surah Al-Humaza had 9 verses. Surah Al-Takathur has 8. Right? This is number 8 in Arabic. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All of these small little bubbles, right? They show essentially a full stop in the Arabic language, or in the Quran rather. So, as before, I will recite these verses and you recite after me. We'll break them up into parts and then we will combine them all together, inshallah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. ألهاكم التكاثر ألهاكم التكاثر. One more time. ألهاكم التكاثر. Very good. So in this first verse of Surah Al-Kathir, it's very important for us to remember that this first letter is a ha. It's not ha, so it's not ha al ha. That's not correct. Rather, it's flat. Al ha kumut takathur. Remember, there's a long vowel here. So that we recite the long vowel correctly. Very good. Moving on to the next verse. Hatta حتى زرتم المقابر حتى زرتم المقابر. One more time. حتى زرتم المقابر. Here, this is a hard sign, so we need to really pronounce that airy nature when reciting hatta zurtumul maqabir. Remember, qaf, round sound, right? A deep sound, not as flat as a calf. So maqabir, right? Maqabir. This one. كلا سوف تعلمون. كلا سوف تعلمون. One more time. كلا سوف تعلمون. Okay, good. Let's move on to the next ayah. It's very similar to that same one that we just read. ثم كلا سوف تعلمون. ثم كلا سوف تعلمون. One more time. ثم كلا سوف تعلمون. Very good. So just to check, right? The previous verse was كلا سوف تعلمون. And then this part here is also كلا سوف تعلمون. So the difference is this literal first part, which is ثم. So when we add ثم and then we recite the verse. ثم كلا سوف تعلمون. This is the manner of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala using emphasis. You know, when you repeat something, you are trying to emphasize what you're saying. So Allah is saying, Kalla sawfa ta'lamun. Certainly you will soon know, or rather, nay, you will soon know. Thumma kalla sawfa ta'lamun. And again, you will soon know. Okay, let's move on. كلا لو تعلمون. كلا لو تعلمون. علم اليقين. علم اليقين. كلا لو تعلمون. علم اليقين. And let's try reciting the whole verse all at once. كلا لو تعلمون علم اليقين. Very good. So remember here in this verse, we have two instances of the letter Ain. So we are remembering that we need to emphasize those sounds when we are reciting those words. Ta'lamuna, ta'lamuna. Then ilmal, ilmal. Okay? Next. لترون الجحيم. لترون الجحيم. One more time. لترون الجحيم. Very good. So here we do want to mention the fact that there's another ha. That's why we're saying heem, jahim, right? Jahim, not just jahim, jahim, right? An airy sound that is coming out of the mouth when you pronounce that letter. Let's finish up with these last two lines. ثم لترونها. ثم لترونها. عين اليقين. عين اليقين. ثم لترونها. عين اليقين. All together. ثم لترونها عين اليقين. Very good. At this point, we want to mention of the cough and then the ain again, right? Some important sounds that we need to have. Lastly, ثم لتسألن. ثم لتسألن. يومئذ. يومئذ عن النعيم. عن النعيم. ثم لتسألن يومئذ عن النعيم. Lastly, try to recite the whole line all at once. ثم لتسألن يومئذ عن النعيم. Okay, very good. So this was Surah Al-Kahf, inshallah tomorrow, or rather the next time we meet, if we're meeting tomorrow, or the next session, we will recite Surah Al-Kahf all once again. Then we'll move on to the new surah, inshallah. move on to Islamic studies. So yesterday we did a certain topic, and that topic was the sunnah of eating. Right, that was a topic that we had done yesterday. And yesterday, before we finished class, I mentioned the fact that I would ask at the beginning of class today if anyone at home remembers any of the sunnahs of eating that we mentioned. So let's see if you can remember any of them, and I had given 5. Right? See if you can recall what was the first one or any of the 5 before we begin and before we recap, right? So the first one that we had done, washing our hands, right? We mentioned the fact that we wash our hands before and after we eat. Then we should sit and eat, right? We shouldn't be standing and eating, right? Or drinking. We should be sitting while we're doing so. Next one, using our right hands to eat, right? This is the sunnah. This is the way that we should eat. We should use our right hands. Next one, we should drink in gulps, not all in one go, but rather in broken up sections. You drink a little bit, take a breath, drink a little bit, take a breath. And lastly, the last one would have been even I have forgotten. It would have been leaving 1/3 of your food, 1/3 of your stomach for food, 1/3 of your stomach for water, and 1/3 of your stomach for air. Right? Now, in doing all of this, we recall the fact that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has been sent by Allah to teach us our deen, and deen in Arabic means way of life. So Islam is not just our salah that we pray. It's not just the fasting that we're doing right now either. It's not just our belief in Allah. A person can't just say, I believe in Allah, I believe in La ilaha illallah, and that's it. That's all I believe in, and I'm good to go. No, rather, Islam encompasses our entire life. So if we want to be true Muslims, if we want to be people in the sight of Allah who Allah has fully accepted, then our Islam has to cover all the aspects of our lives. So how we do business and how we carry out business transactions, how we treat people and how we speak to them, how we take care of those people who are in need and who are vulnerable in society, what kind of qualities we hold in our hearts. Are we holding jealousy or envy in our hearts? Are we holding, a love for wealth, greed, all of these things? Are we impatient? Do we get angry easily? All of these aspects fall under what Islam covers. And so that's why sometimes, we find people and we find that, they are very, very people who are, very pious, or they appear to be pious, but there are certain parts of their character that they're still working on. Islam is all of that. It's not just one single part. So Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he came to teach us our deen, he came to teach us how to live our lives. So how we eat, and today the lesson that we're doing is how to sleep. Something as very, unique as sleeping, and something as very trivial as sleeping. We just go to sleep when we're tired. What sunnahs could they be when we're actually going to sleep? And this is a matter that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has given us guidelines about. Now, if you remember, we mentioned the day before yesterday, Allah has granted us the month of Ramadan to gain taqwa. And taqwa means that we are remembering Allah and we are aware of Allah throughout the whole day. We gave the example as though you're writing a test in school and your teacher is in the front watching you while you're doing your test. You'll behave in a certain way. Now we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching us all the time. Allah is Al-Alim, Allah is Al-Basir, right? He is watching all the time. He is the one who is all seeing, He's all hearing, and He's all knowing. And because of that, our whole day we should be doing our best, and we should remember Allah for the whole day. And so the question comes about, how do you remember Allah while you're sleeping? You're sleeping, some people sleep so deeply, trying to wake them up, waking them up, not able to get up, right? They're just, still asleep, deep sleeping so deeply, right? How is it that a person, when they're sleeping, they can remember Allah? That's where the sunnah and the practice of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam comes in. If we apply the method that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to sleep with, then it will help us remember Allah even while we're sleeping. And just like we had done when we did the sunnahs of eating yesterday, there are many sunnahs of actually sleeping, and we're going to go through some of them today, inshallah. And it's very important for me to reiterate that these sunnahs, we're not just learning them and discussing them so that we can say, oh, mashallah, that sounds like a very good sunnah. And then we go about our lives not practicing it. The essence of learning and the essence of gaining knowledge is that you put it into practice. So the sunnahs that we just talked about, those five sunnahs, we should at least put one or two into practice this month of Ramadan, right? Definitely make sure that we wash our hands before and after eating. We can definitely make sure that we use our right hands. We can definitely make sure that we're sitting down and eating. They're all very, very simple sunnahs that we can apply immediately. And just like that, some of the sunnahs of sleeping are very easy to apply as well. Now, there are lots of du'as also that are sunnah with regards to sleeping. We're not going to go into those too much today because some of those du'as are a little bit longer, right? But the first thing to do is that we remember that before we do anything, we should say Bismillah. And so it is a sunnah to recite Bismillah before you close your doors, before you close your windows, before packing up to go to sleep, before switching off the lights. Saying Bismillah is very important, right? Because we are saying in the name of Allah. Now, think about it. If you say Bismillah in the name of Allah before you go do something, surely while you're doing that thing, you are now in the mood that you have started to remember Allah. So, inshallah, throughout that whole activity, you will maintain that remembrance of Allah. Now, the du'as of sleeping also come into play here. That before you go to sleep, right, you are going to recite these du'as. And we think about what those du'as mean. The dua before going to sleep, Allahumma bi ismika amutu wa ahya, right? That, oh Allah, with your name I live and I die, right? Because Allah is the one who returns our souls to our bodies to wake us up. So we are remembering Allah before we go to sleep. And then when we wake up, Alhamdulillah alladhi ahyana ba'da ma amatana wa ilayhi nushur. That all praise is due to Allah, who has given us life after death, and to Him is our return. Before we're doing the activity and after we're doing it, we are remembering Allah. So the first thing that we should do, make sure that we say Bismillah. And the second thing that we should do is that we should perform wudu, right? It is sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to perform wudu, right, before going to sleep. So we should sleep in a state of wudu. And it's a very great example comes about. We believe in as Muslims that Allah took Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam on al-Isra wal Mi'raj, a night journey. And on that night journey, Allah took Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam straight up to the heavens. And while he was in the heavens, afterwards, when he had come back down to the people, he told Bilal. Bilal was the person who was the first one to recite the adhan, right? He told Bilal, O Bilal, how is it? What are you doing that I am hearing your footsteps while I'm in Jannah? Right? He's in Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was in Jannah. He was telling Bilal afterwards, why, what do you do that I heard your footsteps in Jannah? Bilal told him in one of the narrations that I don't do anything special except that I'm always in the state of wudu, right? Something that is very, very simple for us to do, just to always make sure that we're in wudu. If we use the bathrooms, right, then we make wudu. If we break a wudu, we just remake it and always be in state of wudu, especially while sleeping as well. Something that's very simple that we can apply very easily has many, many rewards. And the last thing that we should talk about with regards to our sleeping is that we should sleep on our right side, right? This is a sunnah way of sleeping. We should sleep on our right side, right, with our right palm under our cheek, right? And when we sleep like that, we should also avoid sleeping on our stomachs, right? So there's a position that we should sleep in. And you know, you remember that when we apply these sunnahs, it will be a means of benefit to us. Just like we said yesterday, when we apply the sunnahs of eating, there's more barakah in our food. It feels like, a small amount of food can fill us up. And just like that, if we apply the sunnahs of sleeping, I guarantee you, right, even if you get a little bit of sleep and you apply as many sunnahs of sleeping as possible, you will wake up feeling energized, right? You will wake up feeling that you have benefited as much as possible from that sleep. So, the sunnahs that we mentioned today with regards to sleeping, the first is that we should say Bismillah when we are getting ready to go to sleep and packing up, doing everything that we have to do to get ready. We should make sure that we are in a state of wudu before we go to sleep and try to ensure that we are sleeping in a state of wudu as much as possible. And then finally, we should sleep in the position that we are sleeping on our right side and avoid sleeping on our stomachs, inshallah. So let's make that firm intention, right? To try to remember to do that before we go to sleep tonight, inshallah. We make sure that we do as much as we can with regards to these sunnahs and try to put them in our lives. Because if we ourselves apply these sunnahs, then we will be like Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, one who Allah loved. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, those who follow his sunnah, Allah loves them as well. So inshallah, we will bring our session there to an end today, and we will continue our next time inshallah. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.